What is up, everybody? We're back here at King Film Sports for the NFL Week 6 betting locks and game predictions. And as is in the thumbnail, we've got a 2-unit lock, our biggest of the season so far, so stay tuned for that. But first, we've got to recap wild Week 5 that was some more huge upsets here and some pretty tough breaks for our betting locks. So let's get into it. First off, I got to mention that Thursday night game between the Falcons and Bucks was just absolutely insane. Falcons absolutely stole that game at home. Kirk Cousins, 500 passing yards. Baker was great, too, for the Bucks. We actually had a sneaky under that I added late, and that one just was dead in the first half, so tough beat for us there. Then we get to this London game here. Jets and the Vikings. We had the Vikings minus 2.5, and as the game approached, I was feeling worse and worse about this, and the Vikings did come out hot in the first half, but it was really just because of Aaron Rodgers' struggles, and that Jets offense was doing nothing. It was 17-0 early. Sam Darnold all day wasn't great, and the Vikings haven't been able to run the ball very well this year without Aaron Jones. So I'm a bit concerned about this Vikings team from how they played, but they were able to make the necessary plays down the stretch. They get a late interception to win by 6 to cover there. And then we learned this morning that Robert Saleh, their head coach, has been canned already, and they're only 2-3. I mean, that's pretty brutal there. We'll see what direction they go in now. I think they promoted the DC as the interim head coach for now. Then we get to this Panthers-Bears game. I was oddly really convinced that the Panthers would win this game outright, and they just got smashed. They were actually up 7-0, and then I think they lose like 30-something to 10. So just that defense is horrible. Caleb Williams actually really improving here. A lot of people were questioning him after the first couple of games here, but he looks good, and the Bears are able to run the ball, and that defense still looks great. And this is the same old Panthers team. Reminder, they did win that big game in Las Vegas, but how good really are the Raiders? And the other 4 they haven't covered, and they haven't really been close. Next, we got to the Ravens and the Bengals. This was an absolutely insane game that the Bengals really had no business losing here. Given that Burrow had, I think, 400-something yards, an 80% completion percentage, 5 touchdowns, and 0 picks until the one late. That was just an unlucky one on the slant route to Jamar Chase. Humphrey intercepts it, and then the Ravens are able to tie the game. And then OT was incredible as well, as Lamar Jackson, a tough fumble where he mishandles the snap. Then the Bengals get conservative, and Evan McPherson misses the field goal, and then Derrick Henry gets a big run and sets the Ravens up for the field goal there. So if you were able to get to +3, then we end up pushing here. But really, the Bengals, it was a must-win game for them, now down to 1-4, and they will struggle to make the wild card at this point and should have won that game there. Then another insane game, Bills and the Texans. This wasn't as entertaining. It was kind of odd and sloppy in this one. The Texans were up big early, then Nico Collins exits. They were without Joe Mixon, so the running game wasn't working very well. And then the Bills really got it going with a few big plays of their own right in the second half. They end up tying up the game. The Texans were set up to get a field goal late, but then intentional grounding on Stroud. They can't take it. Then the Bills, in their own end zone, are attempting long passes with Josh Allen, who's borderline already concussed. I mean, it was just wild. And then they give the ball back to the Texans, who then get a long field goal there. So very curious coaching decision from McDermott and the Bills offense there to keep going after it when they could have just sat on it and went to overtime. So that was really peculiar, and they end up just giving the Texans the win there. Then we get to the Colts and the Jags. We played this at 2.5. Then it got up to Colts +3.5. We played the Colts back a little bit, and the Jaguars really had no business losing this game. They were up 14 late, and it was just Plinko. It was going back and forth, and the Jags defense really folded late. Joe Flacco leads 2 70-yard drives in, I think, a 3-minute span to tie the game, and then the Jags got it back, and Lawrence was able to bring them for the field goal there to win by 3. So we hit everything there. That was a massively successful game for us. But in terms of takeaways, I mean, the Jaguars and Colts defenses are both really bad, and it's tough to gauge how good their offenses are. They looked good in this game, but how much of that is just because of playing poor defense. But the Jags do win a must-win game there to keep their season alive. Then the Commanders hosting the Browns. Not much to be said here. This Browns team is still horrible, and the Jaden Daniels hype with this Commanders team is reaching unprecedented levels here. They've got a big game coming up against Baltimore this week, so we'll see how that goes. Then Raiders at the Broncos. Raiders were really controlling this game early, and then Minshew in the red zone, throwing into the end zone, got a pick 6 that tied the game for the Broncos, and from there on out, it was just all Denver. Minshew ends up getting benched. Aiden O'Connell went in late, and he didn't do anything either. This Broncos defense is just superb, and Bo Nix making the necessary plays. This Broncos team is 3-2, so maybe they can contend for a wild card spot there. Then next, absolutely abhorrent, the Niners blow another big lead and blow this game. I mean, this was just disgusting. They actually got a couple good breaks in the first half, including a blocked field goal for a touchdown there because the Cardinals were missing Matt Prater. They also got a pick on a screen pass with Bosa there. And so they were really set up good to win this game. They were up 13 with the ball. Then Purdy throws an interception. They force a Cardinals field goal. And then they go down the field and are set up for a field goal, but Jake Moody, their kicker, was out with a sprained ankle, so they have to go for a 4th and 23. 3, curious coaching decision there. And then the Cardinals get a touchdown, 2-point conversion. Then the Niners are driving to put it away and potentially get this cover when they're up 2. Jordan Mason, their running back, fumbles the ball. Absolutely cannot do that. So then the Cardinals take the lead with a field goal, and then it looks like the Niners will still be able to drive it late, but Purdy gets hit as he's throwing and throws an interception. Just a horrible loss there. And the Cardinals steal a victory from jaws of defeat. Then we had the Giants +7 against the Seahawks. Not a lot to be said here. This Giants team is a little bit underrated, and the Seahawks are definitely overrated, losing this one at home there. And they even had a 100-yard fumble recovery for a touchdown early in the game to give them the lead. I know they did get the field goal block for a touchdown, but the Giants clearly outplayed them all game. Then we had this Steelers-Cowboys game. Steelers could not separate all game, and the Cowboys do look really bad as well. Dak Prescott, a couple horrible interceptions, but the Steelers' offense really was not working in this game there at all, and then the Cowboys win it late, so pretty entertaining finish there. And then Monday night, not as entertaining as the Saints get blown up. Only ended up losing by 13, but the Chiefs thoroughly controlled that game there. The Saints' defense has declined, and Derek Carr is on a bit of a schneid. He also got injured late, so pretty tough there for us ending the week. So now we get into the Week 6 picks, and we started out here with the 2-unit banger. Niners -3 against the Seahawks now. Now, I know some of you guys might be scared off of this game just because it is a divisional rival on the road on a short week here in Seattle. Very tough place to play. And the Seahawks also are double due up. They lost on Monday night to the Lions, and then they lose this past week to the New York Giants. But this Niners team is not a 2-3 team. I know that they do have a few issues with injuries and scheme, but I just see a lot of misfortune, especially in the Rams and the Cardinals game. This is their third divisional game of the year this far, and they are 0-2. Remember, they had an 11-game winning streak within the division until the last week of last season when they rested everyone against the Rams. And so in the last 2 years against Geno Smith, they are 5-0 against the Seahawks team. None of those games particularly close either, even when in Seattle. And the last 2 times they went to Seattle, it was on a short week like this, and Brock Purdy has absolutely cooked that defense. I know Mike McDonald, their defensive coordinator, has a decent scheme, but really they have not played very well at all. They have some injuries in their back end, and they were not able to stop a struggling Giants offense. Remember, Devin Singletary wasn't even in, so I expect the Niners to pound the rock here with Garendo and Jordan Mason. And then the Niners did sign kicker Matthew Wright, so that shouldn't be an issue. Brock Purdy wasn't very efficient last week. I think that he'll get that in order, and the Niners defense, I think, will play a lot better in this one against Geno Smith. I think if the Seahawks want to win this one, it's got to be a shootout. Seahawks definitely have to put up at least 30 points to win this one, and I do not think that they'll be able to. I think they'll force Geno Smith into a couple mistakes there, so give me the Niners to win big there, minus the 3 points. Next, we get to the London game, Jags versus the Bears. Give me the Bears -1 here. That's where it opened up. Be sure to join our Discord. Link is in the description because I gave this one out Sunday night. Actually, Bears on the money line, -115. And it's since moved to 2.5. If this one gets up to 3, we're definitely playing back the Jags because I think that's a lot of value there. But at the end of the day, I just think that this Jags defense is so bad, and this Bears offense is coming into their own here with Caleb Williams. It does scare me that the Jags know how to play these London games. They went 2-0 last year, and they're here for the long haul. They're here for 2 weeks again because they're playing next week in London as well. So I feel like the Jags might be picking up some momentum, but as I mentioned, their defense is bad, and I do not think that Lawrence will play great against the Chicago defense here. So interesting game. We'll take the Bears -1, but be wary of where that line moves there. Next, we get to the Battle of the Beltway, Commanders at the Ravens here. A great game. I feel like they should flex this game potentially to Sunday Night Football because it's currently the Bengals and the Giants, but they're not going to, so it's just at this 1 p.m. Window here. Still, give me the Ravens to win this one. I mean, Jaden Daniels has a really big opportunity here because he's been cooking with this Commanders offense, and this Ravens defense has been really porous in recent weeks here in this season, so I think we could potentially see a shootout in this one. But part of me also thinks the Ravens defense gets it right, and they force Jaden Daniels into a couple mistakes, and the Ravens are able to win this game here. It'll be interesting to see this Commanders defense as well against Lamar and that Ravens offense, who were great in Cincinnati last week. Next, we go to the Cardinals at the Packers here. Give me the Packers to win this one. Both of these teams on the road last week got kind of lucky wins. I mean, Arizona was definitely more lucky, and I think that Green Bay is just a better team here. Could see a bit of a shootout here as well because that's really just how the Cardinals need to win at this point. But I think Jordan Love is getting it right other than that atrocious pick 6 last week, so give me the Packers to win this one as the better team at home. Next, we get into the betting lock here. Texans at the Patriots. Give me the Patriots +7. We actually got it at 7.5 on Sunday night there, but I would still take it at the 7. If it gets down to 6 or lower, maybe you can play back the Texans. We'll see on that. But really, I think this is a great Patriots spot. Lost their last 4 games. I know that there are some issues in the locker room here, but this is a home game against a 4-1 fraudulent Texans team who's really just been skating by, getting these wins The only time they played a really tough team, tough environment, they lost to Minnesota and got blown up by 20 points in that one. Wasn't even close. Stroud also in his career is not been good on the road, and he hasn't been good as a big favorite. Look at the trends there. It's actually pretty alarming. And I think that he'll struggle in this game against a New England defense that is decent here. And I think that Jacoby Brissett and this offense will take advantage of a couple scenarios here against this Houston team. So I'm actually calling for the outright upset. Give me the Patriots to defeat the Texans here. I would take the spread as long as you're getting it on the key number 7, 7.5, but also maybe look at that money line at about plus 250, maybe plus 270 there as well. So I'd like the Patriots to get an upset, although I know that will be very controversial in the comments. Next, we get to the Bucs at the Saints. I was really looking forward to a Saints spot here. They're just on the bounce back. They've lost 3 straight, and this Bucs team, I think, is a bit overvalued. But then Derek Carr gets injured, and I'm thinking about this rest situation. I mean, I don't know how the NFL let this happen because the Bucs, yes, on the road in this game, but they are coming off of long rest. They played on Thursday night. Yes, it was a brutal game. But then the Saints play a brutal game against the Chiefs here, lose their quarterback potentially with an oblique injury, Derek Carr, and they're on a short week as well. So I think that all bodes well for this Tampa Bay team. I will monitor that Derek Carr injury because we might add a betting lock on this one while it's at this number. It's currently Tampa Bay -2, 2.5. Now, before the Saints Monday night game, it was sitting at Saints -2.5 or -3. So definitely want to scoop that up if Derek Carr is not playing, because then the line will go to, I think, 3 and 3.5, where you can look at a Saints spot throwing out the kitchen sink if their quarterback is potentially injured. And if they lose this game, then they're down 2 to Tampa Bay. Remember, they already lost to Atlanta. So big game for the Saints here, but on a short week with this rest situation, I think it's got to be Tampa Bay. Next game, we get to this Browns at Eagles game, and must-win game for both of these teams at this point. It must feel like Eagles coming off the bye, potentially getting a little more healthy, but give me the Browns plus the 9 points here. This line is essentially indicating that the Browns are the worst team in the AFC, or bottom 2 in the league with them and the Panthers, and I just don't buy that. I think they have too much talent. Yes, they got embarrassed against the Commanders, and yes, they are 1-4, but I think that they have too much talent on the lines of scrimmage. I think that they will beat the Eagles on the line of scrimmage in this game just because they're going to be fired up for this one, and I think that Watson and Stefanski with a good game plan here will be able to take advantage of some opportunities against this horrible Eagles defense here. So I think that the Browns have a very legitimate shot to win this one outright. As a matter of fact, I will say that they will win this game outright here without much confidence, but I think that definitely just take the 9 points or potentially wait if it gets up to 10 here because I think that this Eagles team is being overvalued, but more so this Browns team is being undervalued. Yes, looked horrible last week in Washington, but they will get it right here, or at least put up a great collective team effort to keep it close here, so take the Browns there. Next here, we got an AFC South showdown between the Colts and the Titans. Give me the Titans here just because they're off of the bye, but I really have no feel on this game at all. I don't know who the Colts are going to be starting at quarterback. The power ratings would suggest they're better with Richardson, but I just don't buy that at this point. He doesn't have much experience, and he makes too many ill-advised decisions. So I think they're better off with Flacco in this game if he does end up playing. I think that the best unit in this game individually is the Titans defense, so I think that will carry the day. I don't know if it's going to be Levis or Mason Rudolph. I really don't think it matters. Potentially the Titans are better with Mason Rudolph there because he avoids some of the boneheaded mistakes. So this one should be an ugly game in Tennessee, but give me the Titans to win a low-scoring dogfight. Then we get to an AFC West matchup here, and this is maybe the line of the year that just didn't make the most sense. So only one unit, but I don't know how the Broncos are not favored in this game. I mean, it's in Denver, very tough place to play with the altitude, divisional game here, and I think that it should be at least Broncos -1 or 2 here. I know that the Broncos win against the Jets was a little bit fraudulent. Their offense didn't come to play, but that defense still was great. You look at the game that they won against Tampa Bay as well. In Tampa Bay, very impressive offense and defense, played very well there. And then another great win last week against the Raiders. So I ask again, what has this Chargers team done to be a favorite in this game, especially if 3 points are on that key number? I know they are coming off the bye, maybe getting a couple pieces back, but they still do not have much talent within their skill positions, and I think that their defense could potentially be vulnerable with those injuries as well. So give me the Broncos plus the 3 points there, although I'm just wary of how this line even came into existence last week because the Broncos were -3 last week against the Raiders. I know that the Chargers are a little bit better than the Raiders, but then the Broncos played well in that game. I know the Chargers are coming off the rest, but this just makes no sense there. So give me the Broncos plus 3 and to win outright. Then we get to the Steelers at the Raiders here. This line also is nonsensical, and I gave this one out on Sunday night. But the Raiders getting 3.5 points here, I know that they've been underwhelming, and I know that that was a lackluster effort again. But they've been loss, win, loss, win, loss, and now you can expect the bounce back here for the Raiders at home in this one. That's just the reality of it with Antonio Pierce as their head coach. And I think that the Steeler team just does not play well as a favorite, and they're kind of getting exposed. Justin Fields is playing worse. I think if he has another effort like that against this Las Vegas defense where he's underwhelming, you're going to hear some calls for the backups, potentially Kyle Allen or Russell Wilson, to get some time here. I think that the Steelers defense, obviously great here. Defense travels, but I just think it will be a low-scoring slugfest here, and getting 3.5 points. I would still take the Raiders plus the 3, but if it dips below the 3, then maybe take a look at the Steelers here. I think this is just going to be a very close game. Still give me the Steelers to win by under 3 points here, but I just don't know how that line was the case. It since came down, but I do think that you will see a big Raiders effort here, and also a big Steelers effort because they have lost 2 straight. Next game, we get to the Falcons at the Panthers. And I hate to do it to you all once again, as this Panthers team is the same as last year. They're 1-4 against this spread. The professional bettors are losing big time on them right now, but give me the Panthers plus the 7 points. I know the line hasn't gotten there yet. It's currently at like 6.5, but I'm assuming that it will get there. I'll take it at the high point. But yeah, this Panthers team, I know that their defense is absolutely atrocious. Falcons coming off of long rest in this game, and this Falcons offense has been cooking. But I do think that there are some warning signs on that Falcons defense. That was not a great showing against Tampa Bay. And Andy Dalton, I think, will have a bounce-back game in this one. I think the Panthers offense will look a lot better coming back home here. Remember, this is a divisional matchup, so I do think that the Panthers will play great in this game. And remember, they did beat this Falcons team at home last year in kind of a rainy game. I think they kicked a field goal late there, but I just think that the spread is so inflated at the 7 number that you've got to take the Panthers there to at least keep it close or potentially get the upset win. Then we get the Lions at the Cowboys here. Another line that kind of doesn't make much sense. I think that Vegas is just really saying that buys are worth at least 1.5, 2 points. And if you've read the Billy Walters book on gambling, it's very valuable, but I don't think it's that valuable, especially on the road here. So I'm taking the Lions to win, but if this line goes up even more to 3.5 or 4, we're potentially looking at a Dallas spot. I think that this Lions team is a bit overvalued right now. Yes, their offense is really good, but I think we could see a bit of a shootout here if Dak Prescott and that Cowboys offense gets it going, which they weren't able to last week, but tough Steelers defense, and they made the plays that counted late. And I do think that that Cowboys defense played a little bit better last week, so potentially a little bit closer than people are thinking here with that spread, but give me the Lions to win on the road there. And then we get to the Bengals at the Giants. Give me the Giants plus the 4.5. I gave this one out on Sunday night, as I keep mentioning here, as these lines move in our favor. And now I think you're potentially looking at a spot where the Bengals are the value play, especially if it gets down to 3, or I would love if it got down to 2.5, because then we'd come back big on the Bengals team, because I do think the Bengals win this game. I do still think they are a playoff team, and I think quietly we could see a Joe Burrow MVP season looming. I mean, even with that horrible start to the season against the Patriots, he's top 5 in a lot of the stat categories for quarterbacks here, and I know this Giants defense is good, but I do think that he'll be able to put up numbers against them here. And I do think that the Giants offense will be able to do the same there. I just think that Burrow's the better quarterback. But at the 4.5 number, or 4, or even like 3.5, I do think that the Giants are the value play, just coming back home here. Big morale after that big win. And I do think that they might be able to control the lines of scrimmage here, but it's just a must-win game for the Bengals. So I do think they win by hook or by crook in that one. It kind of reminds me of that game at the Panthers there, where Burrow in this offense will do what is required to get the win against an inferior team. And then we get to the Bills at the Jets. Now, I mentioned earlier that Robert Saleh, the Jets head coach, has been canned, and I already had the Jets plus 3 points. That made me feel even better about this team, because I do think that you'll get a great effort from everyone. I think that Rodgers will get his play in order. I think he'll play a lot better, like he kind of did in that second half, other than the late interception here. And I do think that they will be able to run the ball better, as we saw the Ravens and the Texans kind of do against this Bills defense. I think that this Bills defense is very overrated there, so I think that the Jets will put up at least 24 points in this game. And then for the Bills offense, I know they did look good kind of in that second half, but really in the last 2 games against the Ravens and the Texans, they haven't looked great, and this Jets defense is really good. I know they did give up 23 points, but that was not on the defense there. That was on Aaron Rodgers with the turnovers. So I do think that this Jets defense will play great, as their defensive coordinator has been promoted to the head coach for the time being, and Bills just tough spot here. And I don't even know how the NFL did this to them, but this is their 3rd consecutive road game. I mean, that feels borderline illegal against all decent teams coming into the season. Ravens, Texans, and now the Jets. This is their 2nd of those 3 on prime time, so just a tough spot for them there. I know they are due, but I feel like the Jets are even more due, and this line just doesn't make sense, so take the Jets at the plus 3. I think they win this one outright at home there. So with all that being said, let me know what you guys think of my predictions down below. We've got a couple bold ones this week. We've obviously got that 2-unit mega lock with the Niners, and then a couple of big upsets that I've called outright here, being the Patriots, Browns, and Panthers. But that kind of goes along the lines of the season so far, where these big favorites have lost outright here. Be sure to lock in all these plays as soon as you can so you get the line movement. Be sure to join the Discord, link in bio, and I will see you all in the next one.